For Reaper Metal Productions, this is the Into the Darkness special interview series podcast with my host, Tommy from Redefining Darkness.
Hey, guys.
Thank you for being here. And then we have our very special guest that I never thought would ever be doing anything that I'm doing in the same room. And I'm very happy to welcome Barney from NAPALM DEATH, Benediction. You know everything if you're watching this, where he comes from. And we're going to be really diving in to first kind of a Q&A, and then we'll really be getting into the darkness, so to speak. So to kick that off, Tommy, why don't you get our Q&A, so to speak, things that are relevant of the now.
Well, first off, Barney, how are you doing during all this chaos that we find ourselves in? What's it like in the UK?
I'm all right, man. I'm just keeping it calm. I think there's nothing else to do except just be calm, and just try and roll through it. You know what I mean? You can't change the circumstances or the consequences, thus far. So I just kind of roll with it, That's that simple. There's for us, obviously we can't play gigs really. We can't sort of get together, but we do have stuff to do. We've got an album coming towards the end of the year, so that at least keeps us out of trouble. So.
Right. Yeah, because it's like it's almost like a bittersweet time. Like if this really could go in the way that you'd want it to go, where like people are just kind of being peaceful and keeping away their 6 distance or whatever, like you could get a lot done where like this could all be over with, where it's like, wow, that was a fresh start that we all just needed, press pause and have a staycation essentially and get our lives in order.
Well, yeah, and I want to ask Barney, because I had heard from some other friends from the UK, a lot of folks in the UK weren't really taking it serious for a while, and you guys had kind of, I guess, were lagging maybe behind the rest of the world as far as the quarantining and everything went. Because I had some people, friends from Germany that had just flown back from the UK, and it was kind of a week or two into our quarantine here in the States, and they were saying like, yeah, it's crazy there. People are just like doing their normal thing and blah 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 blah. So did it take
to a point? Yeah, to a point. But it's like if you look at the statistics, it's a very high death rate in the UK.
Right.
And so for a short time, people weren't taking it too seriously, but they are now.
Right.
So at least in my small corner of the world, because obviously the only information you really get, like certainly right now, is mostly the major news channels, so I live in a coastal area, so I've sort of been out for groceries and stuff, and at least by me it was pretty deserted, but
right.
If you go 10 miles down the coast, which is Brighton, which is basically the most popular seaside resort in the UK.
Sure.
There they had some things where a couple of weeks ago, like it just looked like a regular holiday day, and people were just sort of congregating and not keeping distance and stuff like that. So,
right.
So yeah, there's a couple of things, but it's difficult, because obviously first and foremost, it's really weird, because there's been this realization about protecting the vulnerable, and let's be honest, that's not always been the case. I mean, right. I like to think that I've always been that way. I don't need something like this to tell me that. You know what I mean? It's just that has come about quite a lot now. And I'm just hoping that whenever this is all done, that people actually don't revert to type. And actually do understand that the world out there is bigger than them. Just 1 or 2 people,
exactly.
You know what I mean? So, and we should take care of people a bit more,
100%. Yeah, and it's interesting in the States too, because we're such a large nation, and because each and every state kind of have their own rules and regulations, and they're all taking it, kind of their own way, and the federal government's kind of letting each state dictate how they're handling everything. It's kind of strange here as well, because you have some states that, again, maybe the population was low enough that they weren't so concerned, as they don't have any super densely populated areas, except maybe the few major cities they may have in their state. But we're in Ohio, in Cleveland, and Ohio's kind of been on the forefront, so we've been locked down for quite some time. But some but some southern states have they're still really not abiding by all the same rules.
And I don't think it necessarily matters how much about the land spread. I think it's more about people sort of doing the right thing within the small environment, because it doesn't really matter whether you're in the country or the city. If it is correct what we're being told that the distancing helps, then it doesn't matter what kind of space you're in. It's all about keeping away from each other rather than, the massive land. But I mean, I will say, like, as a person, as somebody that I've kind of always been concerned and talked about this, I think the whole idea in the States of the government not picking up the healthcare costs, for this is scandalous. You know what I mean? Nice. Like, private healthcare companies should not be making any money off this whole situation. I mean, in my opinion, they shouldn't be ordinarily, let alone with this. You know what I mean?
100% with you.
Yeah, I just found it absolutely ridiculous, that Trump was saying, oh, yeah, well, we found a couple of healthcare companies that are going to kind of like lower their costs. No, it's like nobody should be charging anybody for this. You know what I mean? It should be met by the state,
That's the point where it's like, when you were talking about, people in the UK not taking it serious and stuff, like, I got to be honest, like, when I hear that guy speak, I can't take it seriously. Like, it's just like this, everything he says, even if it's something that's like sounds true, it just sounds like bullshit. It's so,
well, I mean,
well,
you've only got to follow the timeline from when, like, about a month ago, when one week he said, oh, it's not a problem, we're just, the sun will make it go away, when he came out with that. Right. And then the very next week he completely turned turned the whole thing on its head. And then he rolled back on it again. He said, oh yeah, we're looking at like easing the restrictions in like 1 or 2 weeks' time. And the guys, you can tell that the advisors behind him are looking at him going, what is he fucking talking about?
Yeah. If they weren't, I was thinking it.
But on a serious level, you could say that he's kind of not, you couldn't even call it indecision because it's too serious for that. But whatever it is has caused potentially the deaths of like thousands of people, and that's no fucking joke. You know what I mean? Exactly. It's not.
Right. No, it's not. Well, the fucked up thing is here it is. You got somebody like us, essentially, especially you, where you're, in these bands where the normal public would look at this like, oh, look at this noisy music. What are those? Those guys don't give a shit about people and blah, blah, blah. Where, no, in this regard, these are the people that care, especially yourself, where it's like, and it's kind of funny because it paints that picture that, it's A, you can't judge a book by its cover, and B, like, things are just more fucked up than you would realize, because you would think that your president, somebody that does look like, the guy to look up to, would be the guy to look up to. But no, it is things like, NAPALM DEATH vocalist or whatever that are going to be more your rational thinkers.
Generally speaking, anybody that knows anything about the band knows that that's above and beyond this. That's true, us anyway. Right. As a person, I like to think that I'm kind of a natural born humanitarian, if you want to put it like that anyway. That's whether I was in a band or not, that's the way I am as a person. I actually I care about other human beings, in any situation. I think let's roll it back before this whole like thing about the refugee crisis. It's not a crisis as far as I'm concerned. It's people in dire situations trying to escape, basically, and to have people have machine guns like pointed at them at borders, to have kids put in cages and stuff like that. That's not what human beings do.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's not what you do,
Right.
I mean, and so I don't want to digress, but that's an illustration of it, Right. And so the way this is right now, obviously there is a situation, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm as cynical of governments, as much as the next person, because I've always held the general principle that power corrupts, and therefore, you shouldn't always take at face value what you're told, Right. But it seems that things like this virus, they don't that this is a little different. You know, these are things that once they enter the body, they will do what they need to do. You know, and of course, there are certain people with certain health conditions that appear to be more vulnerable, but that's not to say that people that aren't like us, I'm assuming you guys are like perfectly healthy, you know, that's not to say that we couldn't also be in dire straits, you know. So I think it's important to protect everybody at this point, you know, and for those that are, you know, for those with the ailments to watch out for them, and, you know, it's more than ever, arguably, you know. So that's my thing, you know. So yeah, you know.
Right. Well, and I kind of want to steer, you know, away from this. I just kind of wanted to check in on you, you know, get your thoughts on everything. But being that you're kind of known, especially in, you know, the metal circles and metal community for years as being kind of that socio-political, conscious person, that humanitarian, I kind of wanted to talk about or explain a little bit how you got involved in trade unions and how you think, how do I want to say this? How you see that playing a role in the future of kind of the music business and the media?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of my family history is the male members of my family, my brothers and my dad, were all trade union officials, you know, stewards. Okay. I don't know I can't remember what the terminology. I think you have slightly different terminology in the US.
Steward sounds right.
Yeah, so stewards. My brother was a shop steward actually at Land Rover, you know, the Land Rover, the car company, because Birmingham's a car city. It's much like Detroit, you know. Right. So, of course, you can imagine there's a lot of dirty dealings goes on in them places in terms of the way employees are exploited, you know, by the management and stuff. So, yeah, there was some rough times, you know. My brother told me he's not doing it anymore because he moved away, you know. But my dad was as well. My dad was a shop steward during the 1970s, which was a hotbed of employee versus employer kind of disputes. You know, we had the big strikes in England as well, you know. So so I grew up in that environment, you know, and I from a very early age, I was learning about the apartheid system in South Africa, stuff like that. Right. Which was despicable, you know. And so it kind of fueled my whole thing, you know, my whole realization that the world is an unfair place, you know. Right. And it doesn't need to be, you know, as far as I'm concerned. So therefore, as my dad had done it and my brothers were doing it, I thought it was only right that I should do it. You know, I wanted to protect like fellow musicians as much as I could, you know, with the help of other people. So that's my story. So yeah, I believe in the trade union system, because how else do people have power within the workplace if they don't have collective bargaining, you know? Right. They don't, you know. Right. As an individual against companies, you are powerless, you know, almost, you know. So yeah, I think unions are really important, you know.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you elaborating on that. And you bring up the apartheid thing with South Africa. I was actually watching an interview in preparation for this where you were talking about that when you guys visited and were invited to play down there. That had to be pretty wild, especially the time that you guys went. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, sure. So the whole reason for us going there, I was very, very dubious about it at first, because what I didn't want to go down there and end up sort of going into places that were associated with the apartheid regime. Bearing in mind, this wasn't too long after the whole thing had sort of been dismantled.
Exactly.
There's still a bit of a hangover from it. So I was like, well, I'm not sure about this, you know. So what happened was the ANC actually got involved, you know, the African National Congress, Nelson Mandela's people, and they advised the guy that wanted to promote us down there. So they basically said, yeah, well, you should go there and go there and go there and all the rest of it. So that's what we did, you know. And I went down there like like about a week early, something like that. I did some workshops down there, you know, some kind of unity workshops, if you want to call it that, like loosely. Cool. And it was good. It was nice, you know. I felt it was productive, you know. And then we did the gigs, you know, and it all went pretty good, you know. We did have some issues, like I did an interview on national radio, and I got some really heinous threats, you know, actually while we're on the air. Wow. And we had a couple of things where like some guys in like brown shirts turned up, believe it or not, and wearing the traditional, that the swastika that the very like far right Afrikaans would use, which is 3 7s, you know. Right. It's that was a thing. So we had a little bit of that. It didn't get too out of hand, you know, but yeah, it was a little bit intimidating. But then, you know, you kind of go into the arena and you got to kind of deal with it a little bit, you know. So that's how it rolled. But it was a long time ago, man, 1991, and we haven't been back there since, actually. So
I find that interesting too, because it's like, you know, as you even said, like just earlier with, you know, here it is, Trump says one thing one week, it's like now here you are talking about the same stuff for 20 plus years, and you know, I did the same kind of preparation. You're listening to old interviews and you're saying the exact same things, you know, and it's just like, why don't we have that certainty and people that actually run this stuff? Like, it's clearly not that hard, and it plays in exactly what you said, you know, like caring about humanity. Like, it doesn't have to be the ways that it is, and I don't know. I mean, it's preaching to the choir, but it's just it really highlights in a blatant way how fucked up things really are, and you don't really have to look that hard.
Yeah, the thing is, I also want to say this as well, is that, yeah, I mean, you could say there's two ways to look at this, and like Napalm is very often called a political band, which I totally get. You know, I am, you know, pretty left, you could say, but on another side, we're almost apolitical, because certainly one of the things that Napalm's pushed, you know, is that I've always thought that politics doesn't mean fucking anything if human beings are left behind, you know, in the process. Then politics becomes completely meaningless, you know. So you know what, I would flush politics down the toilet if it meant that humanity in general, and other sentient beings as well, were treated with dignity and respect, you know, to where people didn't starve on the streets anymore, to where people weren't sleeping on the streets anymore, to where people, wherever they lived in the world, weren't worried about a fucking missile being dropped on them, you know, or so on and so forth. You know, I would ditch all the politics just to make everything to where everybody were afforded the same level of dignity.
Yeah, well said.
Totally.
And getting back to the apartheid thing quickly, I mean, that had to be such a life-changing experience, especially at the time that you guys went. And you could tell it's still fresh in your mind, just listening to the way that you're talking about it.
I try not to have pride, you know, because, and when I say that, I mean, you know, I try not to, like, make it about me or us or whatever. Oh, we did this, we did that.
Of course,
it's not about that. You know, it's about the general sort of breaking down the barriers, I suppose, to use a cliche. You know, that's always what it was about. You know, and meeting people that you just wouldn't meet, you know, if you didn't go and make the effort. You know,
of course, sure.
Well, I think this is a great way then to kind of ease up a little and dive deep into the darkness, as it would be. Nothing scary, but we just really go more historical and stuff, talking about, you know, we got fan interaction, people that were wanting to ask some questions, so we got a few of those lined up. Kind of diving into a little bit of the cultural impact that has happened just being in a band that through the rise, and just other stuff, even like Benediction and stuff, the early days. So, you know, a little bit more fun, a little bit more about the music. And so to kind of kick that off, one of the bigger, nerdier things that within the metal world that seems to be kind of argued is, who are the forefathers, the grandfathers of grind? And on Metal Archives, if you're familiar with the website, Metal Encyclopedia, it's said to be like, well, that rivalry is usually battled with Repulsion. So I guess, like, what is your take on that? Would you claim the grind or...
Here's the thing, man. Sorry, I'm moving around a little bit. I'm sorry if I'm like wigging you out, but it's a bit necessary.
No, it's
what I would say is that with the Repulsion thing is that you got to remember that's only one band.
Yeah.
As great as they were, it was about a lot more than that. So Napalm, like, if I sort of rewind a little bit, Napalm when it first started, if anybody's got knowledge of those early releases, doesn't there was a few, like, some other things that were kind of reference points for the band. So when it first started, and we still have the influence of this now, but the band called Crass, you know, which is an anarcho-punk band,
Sure.
you know, that was big on a lot of bands, not only Napalm Death, but excuse me a second, I'm starting to do something a little bit necessary. But so they were a big influence on Napalm Death, but also a lot of sort of alternative things like Jesus and Mary Chain, you know, actually bands like that were like really big with Napalm. And then there was a tempo shift, you know, the band just picked up on not only Repulsion, but like a lot of sort of fast hardcore stuff. Some that was coming from Europe, some was coming from the US, like Siege, Deep Wound, Impact Unit, SSD, all these really great sort of punk hardcore bands from the US. So it kind of sped up around those times, you know. So there was, my point being, that there's a number of bands, you know. Repulsion was kind of a mix, like punk and metal, really. You know, they were a mix, you know. But then there was some pure hardcore punk stuff that was also the influence. So I guess my point is that there is no one or two bands that were really you could pin it down to the two of them. There were many, you know, even at that point when you could argue the underground was a lot smaller than what it is now, you know. So it's really hard to pin it down, you know. I mean, as for the Godfathers of Grind thing, it's very nice, it's very flattering, but it's not something, to me, it's like, I don't even think about it, you know. It's just not an issue, not a thing for me, really, you know. I mean, the sort of grindcore scene, you got to remember, like, the term grindcore was not even a term, you know. It was Mickey that came up with it, the old Napalm drum, and then somebody just picked up with it and ran with it, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a floating term, really, you know. And and obviously then when it did sort of become popularized a little bit more, the scene kind of fleshed out, and there's tons of bands, you know, that play grind, if you want to call it that, with a spin, you know. So there's a wide breadth of stuff, you know. As a music person, there's some stuff I like, some stuff I don't, you know. But it's all about the scene taking on a life of its own. It's not really for me or any of the other Napalm guys to sort of stand over it in divine, like, you know, kind of judgment or whatever. It will go where it needs to go, and also conversely, Napalm will do what Napalm needs to do. You know, we don't feel constrained by anything. If you listen to our albums, really right across the whole spectrum, everything has something that's taking a chance, if you want to put it like that.
It's cool because you weren't in Napalm right away. You know, you didn't join until about 90, right? So it's cool that you got to experience it all watching it and maybe knowing these guys and stuff. So you kind of have that a more objective perspective, you know, having seen them before actually joining the band and whatnot. So I think that's kind of cool to hear it from you.
Well, the thing is that I was there, you know, but I like during the Scum recording. I was around, you know, when the Scum recording was going on. You know, these are friends of mine, you know. So I used to kick around with them. I used to, I say roadie for them. You couldn't really say that. I was just hanging about in the van, getting drunk, you know. But that's about the extent of my, you know, roadieing, really. But and they were all really good friends of mine, you know, like obviously Mickey, Shane, Lee and Bill. So yeah, it was really a matter of being in the right place at the right time. So like at that point I was also working in the car industry, not directly in the big, like, sort of Land Rover like my brother was. I was working for a company that supplied parts to those companies in engineering. That's what I was doing, you know.
Okay.
And then when Lee and Bill left after a Japanese tour, like Shane and Mickey just asked me to join, you know, because they knew what I could do, and I was just like, fuck it, I'll do it, you know. And like 2 weeks later, I think, or something like that, I was on the plane to New York doing a CBGB's gig, you know, with Prong and Blind Idiot God, and you know, it was pretty wild, you know. Pretty wild.
You know, curious. So you just saying that at the CBGBs and Prong and stuff, like you might not have any idea, but like, you know, there's like a live like Prong thing. I wonder if like that's the same session. I guess, do you know what year that was? Do you remember?
Well, put it like this: it was Prong when I fucking loved Prong, which was Primitive Origins, like
yes,
the first.
yes.
Yeah,
We love that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
great.
They were fucking great, man. Absolutely raging. So it was us, them, a band called Blind Idiot God, who were more experimental noise, kind of Swans type thing, as you're wearing the shirt.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. It was good, you know. And yeah, I was just kind of. But then you think to yourself, oh, this is good, you know. I'll do this for a couple of years, and then it'll be something to tell everybody like later on, and then like 30 something years later, here I am. You know, I didn't expect that.
Right.
Well, and the fact that you just brought up CBGB and Prong and whatnot, how important or how significant do you feel like those DIY venues like the Mermaid that treated you guys so well back then, I guess, or at least were a venue that accepted you guys to play? How important do you think those type of venues are to the scene, and kind of the importance 100%. Of those things carrying on, you know?
Yeah, 100%. You know, you've got venues in New York as well. You know, ABC No Rio and different things here, there, and around. These are really important because they maintain the independence of music. You know, it can be difficult these days because there are big companies that either own a lot of the venues or pressurize the smaller venues,
right,
to basically fall into line with them, you know, and it's really important that you have truly independent venues around. You know, it's really important that that's preserved, you know. So yeah, it was really important, you know. And like Napalm, obviously having like equal sort of footing in the punk scene as well, that's all part of that whole culture, really, if you want to call it that, you know. But it's like, it's super important, you know. And purely on a life basis, I mean, there's a real formative part of my sort of mid to late teens, you know, was spent not only at the Mermaid but other like venues around the UK, seeing bands like, you know, Napalm, Concrete Socks, Heresy, Anti-Sect, you know, and then some of the older bands like Conflict, you know, like Flux of Pink Indians, you know, all that kind of stuff was really important for me, you know. So
yeah, obviously we're describing stuff of the early years then, and you know, even and not really having to go back to the conversation that we had even with the grind with Forefathers, because it's very much like a, you know, who invented metal conversation, Black Sabbath, or, you know, so on and so forth. You know, you're never really going to know. And so that's kind of just the point of where my curiosity comes in, where, you know, so you got a thing like grind where it's, you know, it isn't something that exists and anything that, you know, people know what to even expect. So it's probably going to be like that parental, this is just noise and junk kind of opinion that you know, usually get from your parents. And so, you know, if you've watched any interview with you, and it's been brought up that, you know, you kind of bring up your dad a lot, and like, you know, him having like, you know, he was a music fan and stuff too. So I wonder where it's like, here you are now succeeding as a musician, where, you know, when you got stuff like that Napalm has done, that's, you know, very short songs, they're really fast blasts or whatever. It could very well be the epitome of the noise that parents usually describe when they're, you know, ragging on these things that they don't otherwise understand. So I'm curious, like, as you're embarking on this career that seemingly kind of fell in your lap, what was your like family's response to all that?
Well, here's the thing. You know, I never that term gets used a lot, and I understand why people do it, but like to call it a career. Part of the reason why I'm still doing it is because I never thought of it as a career. Right. I wasn't interested in compartmentalizing it like that, because I always had a fear that once you did that, it would become production line, and you know, the band would become predictable and formulaic, and I never wanted that. You know what I mean? Never in a million years. You know, like whatever I do in life has to have a certain character to it. It could be many different characters, but it has to have character, it has to have colour, has to have a mind of its own, has to have independence and all that stuff. So I never thought about me being in a band as a career. Never, not for 1 second would I ever term it that way, you know. So it was, I mean, I know this might sound a little bit cheesy, but it was a journey, an adventure for me, an ever-evolving adventure, you know. And I think, in all fairness, I think my parents saw that, you know. There were some tricky circumstances with my parents, like from my sort of mid to late teens, and I kind of wasn't always around them, you know, for sort of periods. So they actually missed quite a bit of what I was actually doing, you know. So that obviously you have to factor that in as well. But I think once I saw that I was happy and I was getting around the world and meeting people and all the rest of it, they were just pleased for me. They weren't. My parents aren't conservative, you know. They're very like open, like liberal in a lot of ways, and they were just like, you know what, man, you seem happier or happy, full stop. Do what you got to do. You know what I mean? Just do what you got to do and go for it. You know what I mean? And if you feel that you stumble at some point, then you'll just move on to something else. Right. You know, so that was their thing. Really, they never once told me, "Oh, do you think you shouldn't be doing this?" You know, they never once said that. In all fairness,
that's awesome.
And I could really appreciate that remark though, where you, about compartmentalizing it, because like I do that all the time. Hell, I was doing it for even this interview segment. Of like, you know, like what's the purpose of this stuff? And you know, there's just a lot of, well, nobody really brings that up, like how you think about things, because it's very important.
Perception,
because it's going to be how you perceive it of doing your thing, and like you said, like if you look at it like a career, like that could be, you know, you're kind of master your fate in a lot of ways. So if you're going to look at it like a career, like I got to do this, like you said, that's where it could start to sour.
Comes
and
a drag, right?
Yeah. So then, obviously, whatever, you know, response that anybody may have had, you know, you obviously went upon that journey and stuff, which I don't think that that's cheesy to put it that way at all. And so that journey has definitely led you with really some cultural stuff that I know you'll know this reference, and I'm curious to see another side of it, but then maybe some further ones that I'm kind of curious to see if you knew that they existed or whatever, or were in these movies, so to speak. But so everybody's brought up the whole Jim Carey clip and how he's basically, for anybody that doesn't know, I'll reiterate shortly, is that he was basically on a talk show in the 90s where he's talking about how he got into thrash, and then he started bringing up Napalm Death, and then like doing the vocal style and stuff, and you know, it was very much Jim Carey would do it, and he was obviously a fan coming from that, and so, you know, what's your response to that? Did he reach out? We all know that, but I'm more so curious than what do you think of Jim Carey though?
Yeah, needless to say, I thought it was funny. Who wouldn't? You know what I mean? It is funny, no question. But then people sort of, and I'm not sort of blaming anybody for this. People make such a big deal. Oh yeah, but it must have done this for you and that for you. No. I'm like, it didn't, you know, and I wouldn't care if it did or didn't anyway. You know what I mean? It's inconsequential to me almost. You know, it was nice. It was, like I say, it was funny. If he does genuinely like the band, which he probably does. Great, good for him, you know what I mean? But it's like it doesn't have any importance above and beyond, you know, knowing that there's quite a few people in the world that like Napalm Death. There's quite a lot of people who fucking don't, you know what I mean? And I'm good, and that's the way it should be, you know. So you know,
how do you feel about Jim Carrey's stuff though? Are you a fan?
Yeah, I mean, he said what I do, as far as I understand it, he's kind of very, very critical about the whole sort of power structures, you know, within his industry and stuff, you know, and he's really critical of it, you know, and I saw some quite interesting bits and pieces. I don't know the full story, I must admit, so I can't comment fully on it, you know, but as far as I understand it, he's kind of very he's become very naturally cynical of the whole sort of procession, you know, around the stuff that goes on in the film industry, which you could equally direct at music as well in certain quarters, you know. And that's another point, you know. The other thing is that part of the reason why I never looked at it as a career is because, again, going back to that production line thing, you know, I'm a music appreciator of music as much as the next person. But, you know, sometimes I look at certain scenes, you know, and I just think to myself, this is just identikit stuff. You know, they're just doing what they feel should be done. They're basically ticking all the cliche boxes, you know,
right.
And they're not really doing anything that says, you know, grabs the mantle and like runs beyond that. You know, it's like, and it just all stings. You know, we've been critical of pop music down the years for being very sort of artificial and again compartmentalized. I think the genres that we kind of experience ourselves, they can be equally guilty of that, you know.
For sure.
And I think sometimes, I will say this, and I'm only sort of saying it about the metal community because that's kind of the centerpiece of what you're saying. But, you know, in the metal community, sometimes you hear people, yeah, it's metal, it's taking the fight to, it's like, well, hang on a minute. Like, look at this here, you know, this, like, the way the certain structures are, and it's no different. You know what I mean? It's
right.
It's cliches. It's safety within boundaries, and that stuff just really bores me. You know what I mean? And I hate. Again, you know, I'm really sort of torn about this because I don't like being critical of other people playing music because at the end of the day, they've got to do what feels right for them. You know, right. what I think about it, or what anybody else thinks about it, they've always got to do what they feel is the right thing to do, you know. But then as a music fan or appreciator, I do look at a lot of things and I go, you know what, this is boring, you know. Right. It's just cliche, you know, and it's just, you know, all the old heavy metal cliches to me, nah, you know, I just find them a bit tedious, you know what I mean? And I just, that's why I don't consider myself a metal person, you know. I don't actually consider myself anything, you know. I just want to be myself, you know what I mean? And
right.
and I know that's going to raise a few hackles, you know, but that's just the way I feel, you know. I just want to be able to, in as much as the input that I have, you know, in the process of democracy, I want Napalm to be a band that's free moving, you know, and not standing still and always moving, you know. So hopefully that's what we achieve, you know. But yeah.
Well, I would say I'd have to applaud Napalm because I don't think any two records really sound alike. You may say there's a series or a group of records maybe that have come from the same time that may have a deeper thread tied between them than some of the other ones. But especially if you look at kind of when you joined the band and even how those first couple albums, I guess even from Enslavement before you joined, how they took shape and kind of moved in their own direction. And then obviously from there, they give the 90s. And I don't want to compartmentalize you guys either, but I think there's maybe little blocks of time that you could say
sure.
you were going this direction or whatnot. But I will say I applaud you guys for keeping it fresh for so long. And I guess I don't know. I guess maybe it is what you're saying. It's the mindset of really pushing the boundaries and just being yourself and really not paying attention to anything else and just doing what you guys want to do. But I think it's so hard for people to block those things out and put the blinders on. And I think, you know, without getting into a super deep think tank about it, you know, I think, what do you think? I think a lot of comfort comes in with some of that formulaic stuff, even if people are knocking it on the pop side and doing all that. Don't you think they go back to it as a comfort? Like they want to feel those things?
Don't get me wrong. People could, exactly things that I said a moment ago, people could like throw towards Napalm, and I would have no problem with that because people have the right to express that, you know, and obviously they arrive at that conclusion by a thought process. Not a problem, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Try not to be cliche and formulaic and all the rest of it, but sometimes I guess there's no avoiding it really, you know. So yeah, I don't know. Something else I was going to say, but it's kind of slipped my mind now. But yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm some kind of, you know, supreme artist or something like that. But I just kind of strive for you know, sort of to make an impact creatively, you know, and hopefully not to just keep doing the same thing because it just feels comfortable, you know. I think if there is one sort of solid, like, pitch point for Napalm, I think there's the one rule is it has to be extreme, you know. And when I say that does have quite wide parameters. So it has to be challenging, confrontational, and abrasive. You know, I think if it's all of those things, you can do tons of stuff with that particular remit, you know. 100%. So as long as it hits those points, I'm comfortable with it. I mean, it's been quite well documented that I've been very critical of some of the Napalm albums down the years, which actually led to me not being in the band for a little while, you know, because I just didn't feel right with it, you know, and I thought I felt I should be express that, you know what I mean? You know, I can't do things that I'm a part of, you know, with other people and like know that it's not quite what it should be. I can't live with that, you know what I mean? I know you can't achieve perfection. It's not possible in life, but you can at least get to somewhere where, you know, we did our best and that's fucking, is
the best expression of you. Yeah. Trying to find the best expression of you. Yeah. I think that's important.
Yeah.
So I'm curious then, you know, obviously, like you said, Napalm's more of a political and stuff, or at least could be, and it's understandable. So then when it, you know, at least with the early days of the Benediction stuff that you've done, it seemed like that was more kind of your typical metal mold where, like, even looking at the covers, like Subconscious Terror, like that looks like a horror movie title. Yeah. So it's like, would you say that that's like an underlying theme, like that you've, and are you a horror fan as well?
Well, I like the thing with Benediction was the band was doing stuff that was not like Benediction. It was a band before I was in it, you know, and I just the guys had lost their singer, and I kind of went to them. I said, let's do this, you know, because, you know, for sure, you know, I'm a huge fan of early death, you know, Massacre, Devastation, all that very early death metal stuff. Great to me. These days, death metal, I can take it or leave it. There's not much that really kind of floats my boat, I must be honest, you know. The early days, though, the demo days and just after, you know, those very early bedroom demos, fucking fantastic, you know what I mean? So Benediction was a byproduct of that. You know, that's what it was, basically, you know. I could never turn around and tell you that Benediction was this fresh, you know, idea that came from nowhere, because I'd be fucking bullshitting if I did, you know what I mean? It was a byproduct of that early stuff, you know, like I said, Death, Massacre, Devastation, Hellhammer, all that stuff, you know, that's what it was, you know, it was an extension of it. So that's what we did, basically. But, you know, when I guess my heart was had a lot wider sort of thing to it, you know, and then when Napalm came along, that's really what I wanted, because not only did Napalm speak to me musically, like in a wider sense of appreciation, but also lyrically and with the ethos, you know, it was everything that it was like a reflection of me almost, you know.
Right. So
that's why I'm not like Shane, our bass player, who's got a million fucking bands on the go at once, you know. I'm generally a one band person, you know. And when it came to Benediction and Napalm, I did Benediction for a little bit when I joined Napalm, but I just didn't. I felt that I just couldn't do it. You know, I just wanted to concentrate on Napalm, and so I left. Really, I only ever really did 2 gigs with Benediction. You know, one was actually supporting Napalm and SOB, the Japanese hardcore band. We did that in one of those in Birmingham, and one in a place called Wrexham, which is in North Wales, and that was it. Really didn't do anything else. Just the demo, the rehearsal demo, and the album, you know, in the end. And actually the album only really came about, here's a little bit of a sub-story for you. So Nuclear Blast at the time, who everybody knows now, it's become this huge, like, independent label. Well, at the time, it was a hardcore punk label. And Marcus was actually a distro. He was a distributor. He was doing Japanese hardcore, European hardcore, some quite very good, like, unique stuff, you know.
Skype.
Barney, we're losing you.
Skype, I think. Cool. Yeah.
It's from an independent gallery like near me. It's actually an art piece, you know. So I don't know if you can see that.
You might have to move it around a little bit.
So it's obviously the Street Fighter, but catered toward you.
Yeah, with a print, with a like it's like a screen print, and was put together. It's got all the Street Fighter characters on it.
Barney, can you scroll down a little bit, maybe like tilt it a little more, so we can see the bottom? There we go. Cool. Oh yeah, that's sweet.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool as fuck, man. It was. I don't have many indulgences in life, but I do like art. You know what I mean? And I like.
Who put that together for you?
Huh?
Who put that together for you?
It was from I bought it from a gallery, an independent gallery, like round here. It was just, it kind of stood out to me, you know. And I just thought, I gotta have that, you know. It's like, that's like fucking amazing, you know. Amazing. So you really need to see it up close. The colours are fucking incredible on it, you know. So it's
awesome.
It's real good. But anyway, sorry, I digress a little bit.
No, that's cool. I like stuff like that. I do a show called Heavy Metal Relics, and that's like kind of the point is like, you know, collections and stuff, and, you know, people talking about like what they have, and, you know, obviously it's more sort of the record collection, but we wouldn't tell somebody not to show something like that. Yeah,
sure. It was just lurking there above my head. Yeah. And I was like, just kind of Sorry. Anyway.
No, it's all good.
That's all right. I wanted to comment on the fact that you had brought up when we were talking about the early Benediction stuff, and you'd mentioned some of the influence being early Death and Massacre. It's funny that you bring up Massacre, because I was going to ask you if Cam Lee was an influence, because I actually hear a lot of that in some of your early delivery, and so I don't know if that was deliberate, just trying to find your voice, if you know.
Yeah, it's certainly one aspect, you know. I mean, if you want to go through a list of people, really, I would say like Cam Lee, Tom G. Warrior, definitely Chuck from Death a little bit, but then also like Kevin from Siege, you know, Japanese hardcore singers like the singer from a band called Gauza, a Japanese band, SOB, you know, Totswan, so a mixture of all kinds of stuff, and also like Michael Carey, you know, from Swans.
Yeah, right.
Actually, a lot of the goth bands, you know, as well. Actually, for some of the stuff, the goth, that's the thing. Like the sort of early goth stuff.
Yeah,
it was a big influence on us. You know what I mean?
So you can hear it, and you hear it on a lot of some of that more experimental tracks that you do, which I was going to comment on later. But I grew up. It's funny. My aunt was in a goth rock band when I was growing up, so I used to work merch for her when I was like 13, and she'd drag us to Fetish Balls they were playing and whatnot. But it was the traditional goth rock that you would, you know, Chameleons UK and Alien Sex Fiend and a lot of the stuff that actually was coming from the UK. So I'm a big fan of all that as well. Sure. So and you can hear it, and you can hear that influence, which is cool.
Yeah, and even stuff like Bauhaus, you know, going further a little bit afield, you know, all that sort of stuff. Really, you know, Napalm has a massive palette, and like a lot of that comes from, you know, things that it's a number of processes, really. There are things that as a band we've always liked, like one member or maybe a couple of members, and then all of a sudden the light bulb goes off in your head one day, you know, and you go, you know what? I can do something like that. That's going to work really well. I know it is. And it might be a band that you maybe just have been listening to for 30 years and you just never even thought about it, you know. And that's how things roll along, you know. The palette for Napalm, the stylistic palette is fucking huge, you know. And I'm really thankful for that. And then, of course, we take all that and we put it in the extremity bin, you know, mix it all up, and then it turns out like
vomit it out. Yeah,
horrible fucking noise.
That makes me curious then, because obviously you have an affinity to music and stuff. So how did you land to be just a vocalist, or maybe there's more to your musicianship that I'm just unaware of?
Yeah, my musical, like my instrument ability extends to like a kazoo, basically. That's about the degree of my instrumental prowess, you know. But yeah, so I'm purely and simply a vocalist, I suppose, and you know, I like to think I know how to write and arrange stuff, you know, within that. So yeah, and it seems to work out all right in the end, you know. So. Oh, well.
Well, 100%. And you going back to Napalm having this extensive palette, it's something that I think I've always liked. And when I, we were talking earlier kind of about how every album's different, and you guys are always pushing the boundaries. And as I'm wearing on my shirt, Swans today, I was big into Throbbing Gristle, Swans, still listen to a lot of this stuff. And stuff that you had mentioned. I'm familiar with Blind Idiot God a little bit, and some of these other bands. But it was so cool to hear you, especially more in the recent years, really experiment more. There was that intro track on Apex Predator, that record that I think is like the most brilliant track. I mean, it's really pushing those boundaries that you're talking about and not sticking to any formula. And this is where my love of Killing Joke's one of my favorite bands of all time. I actually got to see them on their anniversary in Cleveland, which was mind-blowing. They're still amazing. And even
they are great still live.
Fantastic. To see those guys doing what they're doing is unbelievable. And even more modern bands like Ulver, I think, are really pushing.
I agree. Some of the Ulver stuff's great.
So fantastic.
But here's the thing, though. You say it's recent, but if you go back to Harmony Corruption, the track Harmony Corruption, which is the ambient track that's only on the EP, was influenced completely by Coil. By the Coil. That's what it was. I remember me, Shane, and Mickey were sitting around at the time, and Shane said, "Let's do a track that's like Coil." And that's what we did.
That's awesome.
Utopia Banish, same thing. The intro with the bass, that's Swans 100%. That sort of concrete mix of bass chord that Shane says it's Swans. It's like nothing else. So it's always been there.
It's true. It's true. And even I was listening to Enslaved. From Enslavement to Oblivion last night, and even the opening track there. I mean, it's pretty out there,
the riff is the first Swans track off Cop. I think it's exact. That's what it is. The first song on Cop.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What are some talking about horror? Like, what are some horror movies then that tickle your fancy? Like, that would be your fave, and you maybe even something that you were even thinking of for lyrics or anything. I mean, it doesn't even have to go that far. It could be just something that's like, this blew away a Sunday of me binge watching or whatever the hell.
So did you say horror film? I would say, wow, that's a tough one. There are definitely some that I could come up with, but I'd really have to sit and think about that. It's nothing I could give you kind of right away, really.
Anything of recent you remember watching though?
Not as such, because to be honest, a lot of stuff I watch is mainly, I'm really into filmography, actually, like the art of filmography. And I really like films that have come from situations where the resources were potentially quite limited. Like, I love stuff from the Soviet Union. I think Soviet filmmaking, whichever country you care to mention, is fantastic.
I'm not even familiar.
It's not all what people would imagine it to be. Like, it's not all propaganda. People will say, "Oh yeah, well, it must all be propaganda." It wasn't. Some of it was so incredible in terms of dark humor or situationist kind of films. There's some real groundbreaking stuff there, and it's. For example, there was stuff coming out of Romania that's fucking amazing. Romanian cinema, Serbian cinema, or Yugoslavian cinema as it was then. Amazing stuff.
Anything that you can mention? Any titles to check out?
I could just give you there's a Russian sci-fi movie from 1977 called Stalker. And I believe that film was a big influence on some very weird and wonderful films that came later on in the Western world. It's Stalker as it sounds, Stalker, but I think there's a dot in between each letter, so it's S.T.A, something like that. Let me think
that one down.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it. I mean, Russians or Soviet cinema and all that.
Yeah, I mean, the Italian thing.
Yeah.
The Italian thing makes sense because the Italian horror movement, and obviously, it's
especially in horror,
metal and horror tied together. So the Italian thing's been done, and a lot of people are fans of that. So it's really interesting to hear this.
Yeah,
exactly. There's all kinds of stuff that came out of that sort. Let me think of something. There's a really great sort of. Bittersweet drama actually that came out of, it's not a horror film, and I'm just talking generally about cinema now, called Moscow Knows No Tears, which is really great. It's more of an everyday kind of social story, I suppose. You know, it's really great. You know, there's I could go on. You know, there's I'm trying to remember the guy that was making films in Romania. I can't remember his name. There's one director, you know, that was just made some really great movies. You know,
well, if you think of it,
Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
There's a guy called Schwankmeyer who made very weird, like almost claymation, like kind of films where the bodies would like fall apart and just like body parts would start to like move of their own accord. Very strange, you know. I can't remember the names of the movies right now. To be honest with you.
So talking about like filmography, though, like something that would be striking that I've always loved and a little more of a obvious horror choice is the original Nosferatu. Like the thing that I love about that, you know, being even a silent film and stuff, is the fact that it is silent because it really dials in the visuals, and that's something that I would cite that if I loved some filmography, it would be, you know, the films. The visuals are very creepy and important to that. Like,
so how do you feel about horror like to me is a different thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I always liked schlocky horror movies, but they never scared me.
Yeah,
you know.
Right.
So I want to see if. Like I wish I could come up with some titles right now, but I can't really remember any. But there has been a couple of films. Well, it's not necessarily scared me in terms of I've been looking, you know, to see what that movement is upstairs or whatever.
I know what
but
you mean.
More just the oppressive weight that bears down on you when you watch some movies. That's what horror is to me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Stuff that just makes you, after you've watched it and you just kind of go, I don't feel so good right now. I just kind of want to go to bed. You know what I mean?
Because the jump
here's
scare
one.
thing
Here's one. It's a great one.
I'm looking so
Antichrist. The
Italian?
No, Antichrist. It was the what's his face? Famous director.
Willem Dafoe's the one.
Willem Dafoe's in it. Yeah. Willem Dafoe's in it. Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was weird, man. I was like, what the
that
hell?
It's like fucking
cutting
crazy.
his dick off or some shit. I'm like,
yeah. Now that's what I'm talking about. When you watch that film, you almost feel like an oppressive weight that's like sitting on you.
Right.
And it makes you feel really uncomfortable.
Especially in the beginning when it's
Lars von Trier. That's who he is. It's Lars von Trier.
So I didn't know anything about it. I just saw that on whatever platform that you could watch this stuff. That it's Willem Dafoe, and then I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Lars von Trier. That film, when I first saw it, I was like, what the fuck? You know, I was just like it. You know, and again, it's always subjective, like anything else. You might say that to somebody, they go, what are you talking about? You know, that film was just fucking silly. You know, but to me, when I first saw it, I was like, fucking hell, you know what I mean? It just felt really powerful to me, you know, really oppressive, really grim, really bleak, almost like just complete hopelessness in one movie, you know.
Yeah.
About the disintegration of the human character, you know. So.
I got two for you. I'm not maybe as big a film aficionado as you may be, but I did get into a lot of Brazilian film as like City of God became popular, and then
that's a great movie.
The one about the prison, which I can't think of at the moment. I think the same director though. He directed quite
same
a few.
director. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
And then have you checked out Parasite yet? Because I keep hearing really great things about that. I think Japanese film.
I
haven't seen it yet.
No, that's Korean. I think
Korean.
Parasite.
Okay.
As far as I know. Sorry, I'm thinking about The Host. That's also another great film.
Okay,
it's a Korean movie where there's it's like a sea monster in the local river.
Oh, really?
This huge monster, but it's not.
It's not cheesy?
Actually, the film's not about the monster. It's actually about, as far as I understand it, it's about the things that people feel afraid of that are not actually to be afraid of. You know what I mean? Talking generally about society.
In a way, it kind of sounds like that movie The Mist too. Like, like that's like, you know, got these not so awesome looking CGI monsters,
right.
But it's not about it at all. It's totally the human interaction and like how like that religious ladies. Like, have you seen the movie The Mist? I'm assuming.
I think so. I think I have. Yeah.
It leaves you hopeless at the end as well.
It's very hopeless. Yeah. And it just really reminds me of a lot of the stuff you're saying. So if you aren't familiar with it, it's just a Stephen King movie.
I'll drink anything in, man. You know what I mean? Whatever's going.
It's cool. It doesn't end how you'd expect it in a great way.
Yeah.
Can I recommend a film though that's actually arguably my favourite movie of all time.
Sure. I was jotting them all down.
It is kind of known, and it did win, as far as I know. It might have even won an Oscar, you know. It's called The Lives of Others, or in German, Das Leben der Anderen.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it's about, basically, it's about the East Germany, you know, so the end of the East, you know, the end of the state, you know, and it's about Stasi surveillance, and it's about how a Stasi agent basically comes to realize that what he's doing is just inhuman, you know. So he tries to make good on what he's done, and it just ends up disastrously. It's not, like I say, it's not a horror movie, but it's a really powerful sort of thing about how human beings try to redeem themselves sometimes, you know. You know, definitely worth a look. It's a great movie.
Awesome.
Individual acting in that film is fucking incredible, you know. So
my curiosity is there though, because I love the film. What are your thoughts on the 1922 Nosferatu film?
Yeah, I mean, it's been
German
years
cinema
since I've seen it, but yeah, it's a great movie, you know. Yeah. Any of those from that time, generally, with that sort of
expressionist,
the whole sort of production process, really, you know, because they had to be very, you know, the whole capturing the movie at that point meant they had to have very solid performances. There was no going back, you know, so there's a lot of one take stuff.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and had to be solid, you know.
Yeah, because I'm totally a nerd about that one, and like I have like a DVD that actually like really you know, gives like an insight to it, and a lot of even like some of the castle shots, like the main castle that's like in ruin that they say Nosferatu lives in, like that was in, I don't know, I think like Czech Republic. It wasn't in Germany, and like so, but like getting there was just like a total pain in the ass that they had to freaking, you know, row themselves in a boat down a river and halt this huge camera and just like get the shot, and it's like just
sure,
you know,
sure.
weeks just to get the one shot, you know, for a hand crank camera. And the other thing that's really interesting,
the art of film, mate, that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? So.
And what's really interesting about that kind of, I think, plays into a lot of what seems to be your interest in a lot of what is more of like the humanity responses that are kind of thrown in these as, you know, something more to think of when otherwise you got a vampire going around. Is Nosferatu in particular was a lot of you know, in a German expressionist movie, so a lot of it's like kind of like the vampire and the, you know, the threat here is more or less the outcome of the World War I. And, you know,
sure.
And I find that really interesting, you know, because it's kind of like what you said, you know, like it isn't so much like this creepy monster comes out and it scares you. Granted, I do feel that visually it is creepy and it's cool, but it doesn't, you know, like oh my God, I'm under my blankets.
Yeah, it's not there. Yeah.
But
I get it.
It's really cool, like that expressionist attitude, and you know, just what is also very interesting, going back to that nerdy thing, though, where it's like it's going and showing some sights and all that, and it's like, you know, a lot of those, they were just destroyed in World War II. So like a nerd like me can't go on location and go check him out if he's in Germany. Right. And I just find that interesting.
I've been to like the castles in Romania. The other guys actually went. I didn't go up there, but the other guys went up there to actually a couple of the castles, the famous ones. You know, I'm not sure if there was any films were shot at these particular castles, but these are Dracula's actual castle. He's in Romania, you know, out in the sort of out there, you know. Yeah. So I've been near there, definitely. The other guys have been to it, you know. So
are you and then obviously, you know, still in the Nosferatu world, it was then remade in the 70s by, you know, Werner Herzog, and it seems like, you know, that's awesome and it is what it is. But then like his work, like he does a lot of like documentary stuff, where one of the ones I bring up on this podcast all the time is the Journey to the End of the World, where it's just basically about Antarctica, but it's not him just shooting penguins and stuff, and it's very much what Werner does, you know. You get to see the snow, you get to see all this stuff, but then he just puts these thoughts in your head that, you know, he's talking about these just rare forms of life that are underneath the ice, and just makes you think in this whole world, like, holy shit, like, you know, these creatures don't know anything and stuff. Like, are you into any of his work?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sort of those kind of 20th century like impressionist, expressionist. It's not really it's not. I do like it. I'm not an expert on it by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, I do like that stuff. But I tend to focus more on, like I say, you know, kind of Polish, Russian, Czechoslovakian movies of the time. You know, that's more my thing. You know, and of course, you only have so many fucking hours in the day. You know, to devote yourself to that stuff. So.
It's interesting because especially when it comes to those countries, though, like you're saying, you know, where your interests are. That's like. There's just different tones, you know. They're all affected differently by things, and you know, I'm obviously speaking of Germany, and that's one, you know, point of expression where you get into Polish or Czech Republic, because heck, that's even, you know, Czechoslovakia. I mean, you know, the country even changed through all that. So a lot of that stuff, it's really interesting to see a lot of that, and you almost kind of have to rely on like maybe expressionists through film like that, because you don't know what could be bullshit maybe in your history books and stuff that there's otherwise.
Yeah. Well, obviously they you know, there were people were operating under state guidelines, you know, in some countries, you know, because they had to be careful how things were portrayed, you know, because they could be accused of not treason necessarily, but you know, being counter-revolutionary or whatever, you know. So it was. I'm sure I wasn't there, obviously, but I'm sure it was a bit of a balancing act, you know, in terms of how they could portray things. So yeah, that really is the challenge, because I would imagine you have to be quite clever in how you phrase things visually and all different. So it's quite interesting when you kind of drill down into it, really, when you think about it. You know?
Oh, totally. It's like you're telling a story really through pictures that do have dialogue and things that, you know, could guide you along. But it almost makes it that much more trickier, because your mind could almost follow that and live incorrectly, you know. Let
me actually recommend one. I'm thinking on the flyer a little bit, but if you can get hold of them, actually, I recommend that you get hold of any films that basically Kim Jong-il produced, you know, the North Korean.
Oh, yeah. Really? I've heard about these. I've heard about these.
He considers himself to be a great director, you know, and of course, needless to say, some of them are like clearly not, you know, great in terms of, but they are an interesting cultural document, you know. Right. It's easy to scoff about stuff like this, but you have to watch them to see that unique perspective that is guided very much by a protectionist mindset. You know, it's really interesting stuff. So you can get, like I say, I think you can find like the DVDs online. You can buy like Kim Jong-il's like movies, you know.
It's crazy.
It's worth a look for film buffs. You know, it's worth a look. It's another perspective, you know, on the sort of spectrum of perspectives, you know.
Well, and I really appreciate this too, because it's like, you know, you just go on these things now where it's like you got so much choice at your fingertips that like you just spend so much time just indecisive looking through this crap that it's like, you know what? Because I think of like getting that email where it's like, you know, from Netflix, like Netflix tonight, and then it just recommends all this garbage. Then if it was like Netflix tonight, well, Barney's got you covered. I'd be like, fuck yeah, like I'm
that could be something. You know that could be a promotional tool right there.
Netflix, you listening?
Yeah, right. Century Media listening. There you go for your next campaign.
Sorry, go on, man.
I was going to say, I was going to kind of wrap this up, but if you got something more to say about the film, we can go on that. I was just going to kind of start bringing up Logic Ravaged and kind of the response to that.
Okay, we should go there next, probably.
Yeah, and it was cool to see the Sonic Youth cover, and again, that brings us back to all the influences that Napalm's able to kind of bring in and kind of express in their own way, but more or less paying tribute. And I come from, again, a varied background, not unlike yourself, but obviously a different time that I grew up. I'm almost 40 now, but I had cousins into old school punk rock that were older than me that got me into that. Obviously, I had my goth aunt, hip hop as well. When that was very an extreme expression, when that all happened, I was amidst that, and then the noise movement, that noise rock, that SST sub pop, you know, the beginning of all that. So it was cool to see that on there.
Yeah, for sure. You know, or like I say, as I just said, we just drink it in. You know, you get to a point in life, I think, where you just go, you know what? Like quite a few years ago, I would have like turned my nose up at this. What was I fucking thinking? You know what I mean? You know, it's like you start to get a realization that you can take value from everything. You know, artistically speaking. You know, I mean, there's a difference. Purely on as a music fan level, there are some things you can give it a chance and it just won't float your boat at all. You know, no question. That's an essential part of being a human being and being able to discern things for yourself. You know, but you know, you do kind of, I don't know how to put this really. You do have a cultural education as you spend more time on this earth. You know, and you do start to widen your sort of net, really, I suppose. You know.
Yeah, totally. How has the response from the EP been?
Yeah, really good. I mean, I haven't. Here's the thing: I'm not a social media user. Not because I'm scared of it. You know, I do realise it's got its downsides and its upsides. I just don't have the fucking time for it. You know, I just don't. You know, so I don't know. I know social media is the platform where arguably most of the comment is going to be on that. So I haven't seen any of that, I must admit. But in the here and now and the sort of person to person.
Oh, come on, Skype.
That might be us.
Nobody's.
Barney, you were freezing up.
Yeah,
maybe just rewind there. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
We're good.
Okay. So, as far as I know, face to face, there's been nothing negative said about it, you know.
Right.
I don't know if you guys know anything other, you know, contrary to that, but I've not seen anything negative.
I've only seen positive, coming out of the news stuff. And I wanted to, I don't know if you got some to add to that.
Oh, I figured this was a great opportunity then to go to, because before we did this, I posted on social media to say, hey, we're going to be talking to Barney. Is there anything you wanted to know? So these are the questions of others, not me. Right. Somebody wanted to know the haircut. Why?
Oh, jeez.
I guess I think that plays into that metal nerdery that you brought up earlier.
Can I even quantify that? You know,
do we
how do you
dismiss that
quantify
question?
a haircut? You know, I don't know. You know, why? Because I feel comfortable with it. Is the easy answer, I suppose. You know, and I just want to. I guess I'm regressing into schoolboy mode because I do get told sometimes, you know what, that's a haircut you get when you're 12 years old and you go to high school for the first time. Hey, I can live with that. That's all right by me, you know. So, you know, I'm comfortable with it, you know.
You know, you kind of be more, you know, you can kind of be a speaker that can basically have his credentials still sitting in a room of like far more. Not to sound insulting this, but I know what you get. I'm sure you get what I mean. That, like, you know, you can have this credentials of being this, you know, noisy music guy where, like, you could sit next to potentially a scientist and still converse as adults and stuff. So do you feel that, like, you have maybe the Bruce Dickinson response that, like, he was talking about when he cut his hair like that? It's like, it's almost like he can walk into a room now and be deemed a little bit more serious because of it.
There is a point to make about that, though, and it just shows how ludicrous people can be sometimes. So when I cut my hair off, there was, believe it or not, there was a certain percentage of people that were going, oh, it's cut all his hair off. That's it. The band's over. He's lost all his power. And I'm like,
it was all in the hair.
Is this fucking serious? You know, or I mean, I just.
So what am I, fucking Goldilocks?
Who cares? You know,
or no, Rapunzel?
Like, do we?
Yeah, right.
Do we? I mean, I know some people do, and you know, everybody's entitled to their own opinion and perspective. I get that, but it's hard for me not to say, do you really give a fuck about what people's hair looks like, or the jacket they're wearing, or whatever? Who cares?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Exactly. I mean, really, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I've been of that nerdy or young, but it was like, you know, younger kind of things where you just think of that, and then you grow up and you're just like, I don't give a fuck. And then I cut my hair and I grew it back, you know.
I mean, I cut it off in like the 1999 or 2000 or something. Now,
it's not exactly
it's
fresh.
A long time. Yeah.
Well, I've gotten called out for my glasses on here. I'm like, man, I got to see. Like, kidding me? Like, who cares?
Well, we
like,
kind of run a little bit of
that
elitist metal kind of show. You know, they got that in there. I would have to say I'm kind of guilty of setting it up. Like,
I'm trying to crack that mold, Barney. We're trying to open this.
We're not cracking nothing. You know, a fan will be a fan, but it's just, I don't know. At the end of the day, if you get offended by somebody asking, that's what really matters.
I don't give a shit. I just find it a bit.
Exactly. It's fun.
You know,
it's fun to react. Like,
but yeah, cool, fine. You know, no problem.
That's fun.
Here's a little bit more. Your favorite Motorhead song to cover?
Oh God, that's a tough one. You know what? There are many. I mean, my favorites like Ace of Spades, and then a toss up between Overkill, Bomber, and No Sleep Till Hammersmith, really. But so those are the albums. But the actual song I always wanted to do was the Girl School and Motorhead collaboration, which was on the B-side of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre EP, which is Emergency. It's actually a Girl School song.
Yeah,
nice.
That song is fucking heavy, man. You know, and with the playoff vocals between Lemmy and the singer was Kim, I think. Fantastic. What a great fucking track that is, man. You know, so I would say that.
Awesome. Your band on your label just did that cover, 999 Emergency. Ian Burton. He has a label. The guy that
Blurton. Yeah.
He did a cover. Another band he worked.
Yeah,
with.
it's a great song, man. It's a great song. Yeah. Other than that, pure Motorhead song, Shoot You in the Back. Love that song, man.
So it sounds like you got at least a few that maybe those will resurrect one time.
You never know.
You never know. Has the world gone mad?
That's a question.
That's a question.
Mate, the world's always been mad. Here's the thing. We've been obviously we're in a certain situation right now, but I've been kind of putting this out there recently because this has come up quite a bit. There are lots of things right now that you can kind of put your head in your hands and go, fuck me, you know what I mean? But think about going back just over 100 years ago. There was something happening in Europe where if you'd have got dragged into it, there's a good chance you'd be fucking dead.
Yeah.
And like however many million people died for something that was a glorified fucking chessboard. You know, I'm talking about World War One. Which was fought on, you could say, an enlarged chessboard, you know what I mean?
Right.
And
a game of Risk.
Ridiculousness of so many people dying for the machinations of generals, because that's what it was. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. So it doesn't matter. The world is always a fucked up place. You know, that at any point in history, certainly since I've been on this earth, I can look at any year and go, you know what? This was going on.
Right.
That was the fuck was that all about? You know.
Well, in World War II, we don't even need to speak on it, but I mean,
that as well. You know,
but it's interesting that you put it like that, because I've kind of used that analogy, like when you hear about, I mean, not to play light into this at all, but like when you hear about these school shootings and stuff, it's like, well, you know, things have, like, because people usually follow that with like, it's way worse now than it was, and it's like, I mean, that sucks, but you weren't exactly having to register yourself and then be sent off to war, and then you're the guy in Saving Private Ryan when the thing comes out and you're dead in 2 seconds.
It's always going on, you know. I mean, human beings, I think, I always used to say this thing, I think human beings have forgotten what humanity actually means, you know, what it's like to be a human being. But I don't think they ever kind of really realised in the first place. There's instances across recorded history where people just did fucking heinous things to each other. They didn't care. In the pursuit of power and control, they would do anything to any number of people and could seemingly sleep soundly in their beds at night, you know. I mean, unfortunately, we're still at that point, you know. We're at the point where you could ask a politician, why are you selling arms? Why do we have an arms industry? Oh, well, we need to because it boosts the economy. Well, think about the roots of what having an arms industry means. It means that other people are fucking dying, you know, indiscriminately to pump money back into an economy.
Yeah, right.
What's humane about that?
Exactly.
Nothing, you know, on any level, you know.
Well,
there isn't.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And it's almost like not even a double standard. It just doesn't make sense, because if you're going to have an economy that's booming, it's there so we can survive and do all these good things and have fruitful lives. But, you know, the other thing is, too, like when you say, like, you know, humanity not ever knowing itself, these times are also like presenting that in more just direct everyday ways. So like, you know, so we got these doomsday preppers and their mentality, you know what? If we can never go to the store again, what are we gonna need? Fuck food. Fuck getting it canned. We need toilet paper and Clorox. Two things that, dude, if you need to wipe your ass, you can probably do that in the shower, a bidet.
Bottled water. It's like your tap's not affected, man. Like, you know,
Clorox. Have you ever understood what the effects of boiling water could potentially do?
Boiling water.
You know? So there's solutions that, you know, in my head, doomsday prep, we want to learn some fundamental skills. You might want to learn how to garden, maybe do some hunting, shit like that, or otherwise stock up on some food. What a brilliant idea, I'd like to think. and shit like that. I was like, man, you came and grasped what you even need to survive in a day. You thought toilet paper.
That's the thing. I mean, there's a very, like, obviously there's a situation here where the same thing, where people are hoarding, they're taking goods and other people are going without, and that's not right, but then let's look beyond what's going on right now. There's a and I know there's a general situation in the world, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, where there's a fair percentage of the world's population that wakes up in the morning and doesn't even know where they're going to eat that day.
Right.
And actually they're at the point where if they don't eat for a day, maybe a little bit longer, they could fucking die, of malnutrition. That's still fucking happening now, And why should it be that there's so many technological advances and man has come up with so many wonderful, like, mechanisms and engineering, marvels, and yet you can't. There's enough food to go around for everybody, but for some reason it's not distributed properly, and this shouldn't be the way.
Right.
That sometimes this world can just deal with the problems on the surface. It's like if you've got a table and the legs are about to snap, but you just keep cleaning the top because you just want to see that, and that looks, as long as that looks nice, you don't give a shit about anything else, Like the world as it is unsustainable, the way things are distributed. It has to fucking change, what I mean? It has to, there has to be a general, and I know people know this, but it's just like they don't want to know about it, a lot of the time. There has to be a redistribution of resources and the also distribution of power, and being able to affect power in this world, it has to. Can't go on like this, you know what I mean?
Right. It's basically like, you can tell them the awareness of people is like the equivalent to like the overweight guy that will just constantly ask like a personal trainer for like advice. And then just hear the same thing over and over. Dude, you just got to hop on a treadmill. But he doesn't want to hear that. He wants to hear that there's going to be some magic pill he can take that he'll wake up tomorrow.
Magic
that's
solution.
That's their comprehension in the world. And if, for anybody that doesn't understand Barney's analogy of the world or humanity doesn't know itself, all you got to do is remind yourself of this. There are people in the world that starve themselves, that are adults, that deem themselves that they just fucking died because they weren't eating, and then they needed diapers because they were playing video games too much. I mean, that just kind of wraps all up how fucking dumb people are. That I think that's exactly what you're describing. Humanity just never even knew how to exist. So I think Tommy was aching, though, for a remark that he had.
No, not. I mean, I actually feel silly going back to fan questions after getting such serious topics. There was just one that actually J-Dog, who's also a host,
the Reaper Metal family.
Yeah, on the show, and he actually had a question about kind of in the '90s era and the with the logo change and the involvement, and then bringing it back and whatnot. So I kind of have an idea based on the answers you've been given already, but I'd like to get your take on what you guys were thinking at the time, and I guess that all came around the Columbia time too, right? When
but that wasn't an influence on us. Okay. In all fairness, that those discussions were going on before that. That's one thing I will say. I will nip that in the bud.
Okay.
Columbia was never. We never took into account, like, if they tried to change it. In all fairness, they didn't. I can have many criticisms of that particular time and process, but I would be lying if I said that they tried to influence us to change ourselves stylistically. That would be very untrue. Again, I didn't want to be on Columbia. I didn't feel that they could. That it was. How do I put this? That it was conducive to us maintaining independent status as a band. I didn't feel comfortable with it, but in all fairness, they didn't try to change us. And there were some, in the departments at Columbia, there were some very good people who had our interests at heart, which which will be great, except you're dealing with a colossus, that doesn't really give a shit about those sentiments, I would suggest. But yeah, no, that stuff was within the band. I actually didn't agree with it at the time. No. I thought changing the logo and stuff was... we were going back to earlier. What are the touchstones for NAPALM DEATH? Extremity, But I also think in the way we project ourselves, in the art sense, I thought that logo was very confrontational, the ones that we've still got now, and I didn't see any need to change it.
Right.
But it got changed. I'm not pointing at fingers at people, because at this point for us going through that process, but I didn't agree with it at the time. I didn't think it was the right thing to do.
And it lasted for quite a while. So what brought it back around eventually? I think
I might be wrong, but I seem to recall when we did Enemy, it came back, and Enemy was kind of a rejuvenation, really.
Totally.
So then that rejuvenation also spread into things like the art side.
That's J-Dog's favorite album, actually. He told me yesterday.
The Enemy?
Yeah. As much as he loves all the original and Scum and Utopia and Death Beyond Manipulation,
cool. A lot of people
Enemy's
say
his favorite. Yeah.
A lot of people say that. I really love that album. I think the drums don't sound quite right for me, though. They could have been more like natural, meaty kind of sound, and they're not. They're a little bit sort of studio sounding, but that aside,
I have a total side comment. As a fan, Napalm's actually one of my favorite bands of all time, and a lot of the reason is for what you mentioned, just not being scared to be yourself, doing whatever you guys feel like is the best representation of you guys at that time, never really caring about what anyone else thinks. And so for that reason, I've just been a fan forever. And it's funny, I'm really good friends with Dirk Verbier, and who's now the drummer of Megadeth. And me and him geek out, and obviously he's good friends with Shane and some of you guys as well. But so we always nerd out, and it's funny. For as much as he's just trying to make a living doing his thing, if he could play in a grind band all day or play for Napalm Death, I think that would be his ultimate dream.
I don't really know him that well, but I mean, Shane tells me exactly that, actually. It's like he's kind of dying to it,
Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah. He's a fantastic guy. Yeah. But from my experience seeing you guys live, if I'm ever to explain it to someone, it's very much how people explain Motorhead, that have seen Motorhead multiple times. It's just the loudest, most sonically abrasive, and visually with almost how you're possessed on stage, and you just kind of let loose and or in your own headspace, and whatnot. But I think it's the most intense live experience.
Thanks,
one of the most intense, I would
appreciate
say.
That. Yeah. Thank you, man. Here's the thing. Certainly, just speaking for myself, I was influenced very much by US hardcore, actually. Like those early bands like SS. When you see those bands play live back then, it was a free-for-all, man. You know what I mean? Right. There was no... people always... Sometimes it comes across as being a bit trite, but people are, when people talk about this non-separation between band and audience, well, that is the way I feel. I don't want people to see a visible barrier between band and audience. I want it to all be a chaotic kind of ball of energy, just kind of flying around. So that's what I do my best to get lost in the moment. And then it's a bit non-uniform and unpredictable, and okay, it's not dangerous necessarily, hazardous for your health, but it's just a big ball of energy, So all those early US bands, definitely, and also things like Genesis Peorage, on stage back in the day. If you see the early gigs like Throbbing Gristle, he was just like, you would look at him and you go, what is this guy doing? You know what I mean? So
even Ogre from Skinny Puppy,
Ogre also, right. Also, sure,
I think metal needs more of that, and I think what's funny is metal has become the this and the tough guy
in Cleveland,
and ultra militant. Everyone's just, and maybe there's something to be said about that too, where there's maybe some benefit, because Cannibal Corpse comes across that way, where it's just this operation and it's militant.
But the thing is, though, you meet those guys. Here's the thing, though. Appearances can be deceptive, because you meet those guys and they're fucking sweethearts.
Oh yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah. But I take your point. But again, I don't want to beat people with a stick with this, but the thing is that like metal is definitely a part of Napalm Death. It's one of the arrows in the whatever you call the thing that carries arrows, a quiver or something like that.
Or quiver,
yeah.
it's only one of the arrows.
Sure.
There's many different things, and for that reason, I mean, I don't get hung up on categorizations, but I've not considered Napalm to be a metal band really ever, you know. And this is the thing. Sometimes I get into not debates, but like we'll do an interview. So, oh yeah, Napalm, death metal things. I'm like, no, it's not. You know what I mean? That's one small strand of it. You know,
sure.
There's all these other things. Yeah, but it's death metal band. No, it's not. You know what I mean? Yeah, well, it's just a metal band then. No, it's not that either. You know, it's you know. And again, you don't even want to do it because you know it's kind of. It's a very minor thing, you know, but you start getting into a exchange with somebody about what's what. But yeah, I mean, just like from, I guess, my own perspective, it's Napalm's not really a metal band, you know.
Right.
It definitely has the elements in there, 100% for sure. But it's not, I don't think you can accurately categorize it as a metal band.
I completely agree. And I almost
would
think
agree too.
Napalm Death is the sonic interpretation of extremity or abrasiveness.
That's a good way to put it. Actually,
Yeah.
I would not argue with that. You know.
Yeah.
And I would also say that you know, here on this channel we do things like, you know, big fours or whatever, and not the conventional one that everybody's thinking of. And so if there were going to be like a big four for the UK and extreme metal, you know, regardless of what you want to call Napalm, like it would be in that. Actually, extreme music.
Right.
Be probably a better way to put
But
it.
then you're opening
definitely.
it up though.
I've just got to plug in briefly because now my laptop has decided that it's running out of juice, you know. But so just bear with me 1 second, you know.
Yeah. No, that's all good. And I really appreciate, you know, you giving us all this time today.
You know, I was gonna say, I don't know if there's anything about the new album. I believe a title hasn't been revealed yet, right? But I've read some interviews about kind of the inspiration. You had mentioned the outsider, and it's kind of about that the idea of the outsider, kind of in a general way.
Yeah. So 1 second, man. I'm just going to plug in right here. I just don't want it to die before.
Sure.
I thought this could be.
Yeah, that's basically what it was about. So I know we touched on this earlier on, but I just got really. Not depressed because I think it doesn't help, but this whole thing about like kind of there was a big thing about refugees, you know, like stigmatizing people that were basically trying to survive and not die, you know, in various scenarios, you know.
Yeah.
And it really saddened me, I guess, if anything. The whole sort of attitude towards, oh yeah, these people are invading, you know, they're coming across our borders and all the rest of it, and I just really left a bad taste in my mouth, you know. So
Sure.
So it just kind of led me with the new album to do something that talks about the other, and that could be, it's not just refugees, you know, it could be anything. It's this human thing sometimes where people, if the characteristics of a person that's standing in front of you doesn't tick every box that you feel is relevant to your little world, then people just get really protectionist, you know, really self-protective,
right?
You know, and that leads to a lot of real negative stuff, you know. The things we know about, you know, racism, this identitarian kind of movements. You know, we're going to protect the white race and all this fucking like really inhumane stuff, you know. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to basically put it out there that you can be a human being. You don't have to discriminate against anybody, you know, who has different characteristics to you. You can get along quite well without doing that. It's completely unnecessary, you know. So
Yeah, and maybe there's some just heavy stuff like in there, but it's all reality.
But this is great, and this is great for our audience, especially because it is a majority metal audience, and there are some cliches in metal that do carry through, and there's some of this elitist attitude for whatever reason. I think to have Barney on, and obviously a lot of these people are fans of the band, and so
I will say
to hear
that
his opinion, you know.
I will say though, in as much as that I've been a little bit critical of certain things in this interview, I will say that you can't single out the metal scene for that. Every scene
100%.
That I've ever come across has that element to it, you know. So it's not, you know, we can't sort of sort of just put it on the metal scene. Every scene has this, you know.
Sure.
And the one thing I will say about the metal scene, you know, let's turn it on its head a little bit. I've experienced such, like, we're doing this album, the things you just talked about, but I've experienced such kind of humanity from people that would buy. You were talking about the kind of mum and dad complex, this thing, these horrible people like wearing black, you know, that traditional kind of view of metal.
Yeah.
You can then obviously when you mingle with the people, you know, the people that those mums and dads are kind of talking about, if only they would realize that some of these people are some of the most humane, like considerate, like loving people there is, you know. It's that kind of complete failure of comprehension almost, right. You know, to realize what's.
Yeah, you know, you just gave me a thought too of one reminded me of a thought that I've had when you talk about these things and not so much just label it metal scene, because you're right, it is multiple scenes, but when it comes, I guess maybe to metal because it's more of our niche, is one of the and something I'm more carefully paying close attention to is that it seems like whatever the reason we've gotten to this point where now it's like a lot of people are, I guess, witch hunting, for lack of a better term, like bands that did this back when, or
accusatory.
You know, like, because and then the accusatory that usually follows is the NSBM scene, and you know, and I'm not trying to condone anything that could be, you know, hateful and cause the a listener or somebody to do the wrong thing through somebody's music. But one thing I think is slightly dangerous, having maybe the internet and whatever to kind of take you away from the otherwise fist in the face that you could potentially be up against talking to somebody directly in the face about these things, is the fact that people will like kind of more so condemn and make more of a stink about things that when it comes maybe to some of these NSBM or anybody that did anything that could be, yes, problematic and hateful, they do it without maybe awareness to where some of these bands could have been coming from, where maybe they're from like a different country, that even though, yes, what their message is shit, they don't understand maybe why they might think about that. And I guess what I'm describing is that when somebody might also be basically the guy that's you know, giving the wrong message and putting out bullshit objectives and agendas, you also you can't just like lump those people that might be these radical racists into an umbrella and just be like and dismiss them, because that's exactly kind of what they're doing that's creating a problem as far as their hatred. So to give them that same kind of treatment back is dangerous, because those people you got to kind of like nurture to be like, well, dude, what is your problem? Why don't you like that? And I think the internet might be, and I guess maybe it's just more of a rant and that I have here that it's maybe seeing what you think about that it's like, but I think there's a responsibility to not just be typewriter tough guys, to the fact that yes, we do have things like NSBM and stuff that may have ruffled some feathers, you know,
Napalm's got a history of like anti-fascism, you know what I mean? Right. It was a big thing for us, you know, because, and I'm caught in two minds about this thing, really, because I don't want to suppress people's voices, you know. Some stuff to me is fucking ignorant, you know what I mean? But I still also, to a point, don't want to shut down the kind of conversation about that, you know. So that is a point for me. Having said that, you know, when you understand what the implications of letting those things loose, you know, as we had in Europe in the 1930s and the 1940s, then you realise it's not completely separate, but it is a very unique sort of situation, that whole neo-fascism, or neo-fascism as it would be now, you know. The consequences of that stuff getting roots, you know, is really fucking stark, you know what I mean? Yeah. And there is evidence to suggest that this could happen again, because in Europe right now, for example, in Hungary, there's a government in Hungary that more or less like spouts language about refugees, not just refugees, like homosexuals, gypsies, that is bordering on what Hitler was saying in the beer halls, in the 90s. And this is a national government, you know what I mean?
We have a guy pushing some of those buttons too.
Here in the United States, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to be very fucking. You're totally right in what you say, and I'm very much an advocate of letting people say what they need to say, no matter how fucking grotesque I might find it, But there comes a point where you have to say enough's enough, you know what I mean? And it's straddling those two positions, really, because I've got very sort of firm ideas generally, but that being said, I also understand that sometimes you are caught between two things, and it's not a weakness. It's an actual willingness to try and look beyond what you even thought for many, many years sometimes, so you have to never stop thinking, you know what I mean? That's a tricky one that we're talking about here. It still challenges me to this day. I've ended up in brawls, with like, Aryan nations or Aryan supporting, various people down the years. And then I've met people that were of that persuasion who I've actually sat down and had a conversation with, and there's also, of course, there's the very positive stories where people that were into that and endorsed that whole thing have since turned around completely and gone in the other direction. So therefore, you kind of worry sometimes. You don't want to do something that would prevent them, that would entrench their position even more, to where they wouldn't come around.
To protect that position, right?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. There's no easy answers.
Well, and I think what you're getting at is you can educate the ignorant as long as they're willing and open, right? Or become open. Yeah. So I think that's the important part, is you don't fight ignorance with ignorance. You try to educate, and I think that's what it is. And not ignorance in the stupid sense, but ignorance in the not knowing sense, or being unaware. And so I think that's where a lot of it comes from, is fear because of that ignorance, and then that protection or that closing off of, and that what keeps people thinking the way they think. But then when they're open and they have an experience where it challenges that ignorance, and they begin to learn and be educated on, hey man, this dude's just like me, or whatever it might be, and it's really I don't know. It's great to hear those positive stories of people turning around, and like you said,
for sure,
we can't just close it off.
I mean, a lot of this also comes out. I mean, we're talking about potentially here about kids, like everyday people, that we have opposing views and but quite severe opposing views. Yeah. Let's not lose sight that there's people that actually have the power. There's politicians. For example, the state governor of Texas, saying that we're not taking any more fucking refugees, and all the rest of it. There's people that are desperate people, and you can stand there and like turn someone away from a little bit of welfare, from a little bit of fucking human resources. I mean, have a fucking word with yourself. You know what I mean? I mean, arguably that's where the real powerful lies, and obviously on upwards from that, that's problematic,
Right. Yeah, and ignorance to it, and witch hunting what could otherwise, because a lot of this really reminds me of the Joe Rogan's podcast. He had like I don't remember what the guy's name was. He's a black guy, and basically his shtick was that he meets Klansmen or really anybody, but particularly.
I watched this one.
Yeah, and he was talking about how
guy you're talking about actually. Yeah,
and cool. He like sat down with the head guy, and he's like talking, and he's like, you could feel the tension in the room, but he's like, and then this guy turns out to be a really good friend of mine. And he resigned. Right. He's like, and it's happened time and time again, and that's the shit I'm talking about, because it's happening in metal. Totally, There's a particular website that just wants to take some little instance. Marduk comes to mind. And like getting a tour canceled, like them talking about whatever Nazi stuff, and it's just like, just because I'm assuming Marduk in particular, any sort of German, even Nazi stuff, they're doing it for the
history,
fucked up history that it is, element, and making something scary music or whatever the hell objective you want to give it out of it.
What's the crushing reality of that's more scary than this makeup I got on my
right,
face or whatever. Right. Yeah.
That, and you're not sitting them in the room, because what if they really thought this? Well, then sit their asses down and let them talk about it for a second. So we fucking know what they literally think, not just some schmo writing about it because he wants.
Yeah.
Because what's the real threat is the internet, because you have things that exist now like clickbait, where you can essentially take Barney from Napalm Death interview, and if Barney from Napalm Death is a really good, strong search term, well, then I could call a video that doesn't even have you in it that title, and I'm going to get views from it.
Right.
So if you apply that logic to this band's racist and they hate this or that, and because they got something that's just clickbaity, well, now you're going to get people that are never going to give that 15 minutes to reaffirm and reestablish, like, their thoughts were wrong, and they're just going to always be walking around that fuck that Marduk band, and now they're getting fistfights and they're causing havoc. It's like, this ain't solving shit, even if they really were guilty of something. You know what I mean? So it's very important to know, like, give somebody the chance to speak, and if they've, like that guy on the Joe Rogan thing, like he even says, like, you know, some of these Klans guys, they admittedly even said, I've never even fucking met a black guy before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big light bulb that goes off. That it's kind of like what
Well, it's like
everybody
it's like
has.
character
You don't-
defamation. It's
Yeah.
like you're accusing someone of something when you don't even know the story, or you haven't talked to them.
Well, and it's
so
also-
that's ignorant again, right? So that's
It's-
ignorant breeding ignorance, and that's, we want to try to eliminate those things from
Yeah.
happening, because it becomes like this crazy effect where now it's just happening everywhere and it's hard to stop.
There's just one kind of like sort of thing I would say to all this is that I agree with you on most of it. The only thing I would say is that, like, I've never been one for excusing things because, it's just culture. It's just the culture. You know, here's the thing with culture. People place such importance on culture. But I think if culture is destructive, then fuck it. You know what I mean? I don't care what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything that people hang on to culture for grim death. You know, I don't give a shit. I've met plenty of people for places that didn't have a high concept, that were quite mono. What do you call it? Monoracial. I don't know what the term is actually, but they're very sort of monocultural, I suppose you would call it. But there were people I met there within those communities that would say the same as what we're saying. Don't be fucking racist. It's, you know, it's just like it's not logical, it's not humane, it's not nothing. So I don't buy that. You know, I don't buy this thing is where you come from means that are you 100% going to go down should go down this particular direction, because it's just, we're human beings. We have the capacity to think, you know, we have the capacity to, you know, have breadth to our thoughts, you know. So I don't buy that, man. You know what I mean? I don't buy that stuff, you know.
Yeah, because the analogy I like to remind people of, have you ever looked at weather patterns and what the Earth can do? In one swipe could just be like, fuck everybody.
Yeah.
You're gone.
Yeah.
And all these stupid problems we wasted our fucking time on were nothing. And I would think that, you know, if there is things that we do to influence those things that the Earth could just kill you with, then we probably should be applying these thinkings that we have to fix that, rather than something stupid about this guy likes that, he's that, I've never met him, blah, blah, blah. Who gives a fuck at the end of the day?
There is a lot of window dressing generally,
Yes.
you know, in terms of what.
Well, this has been the Into the Darkness podcast. We went to many places, and I hope you like it, because that's what we do here on the channel. We've got podcasts, we've got regular YouTube videos, and this is something new that we're trying to do here, and really happy to have you, Barney. I really appreciate you taking time.
Man. Appreciate the time.
Mate, I'm always happy to talk. I'll talk the hind legs off a fucking donkey. Man.
Well, and thanks for the film recommendations, too. We'll be checking out a lot of
Yes,
stuff. So.
yes. Netflix with Barney.
Right.
So if you haven't already, you're new here, definitely check out everything here on the Reaper Metal Productions YouTube channel and all that good stuff. Subscribe, like, because when you do all that, it'll mean we have everything we need to talk to you next time.